In this video, we are going to be adding a bullet which gets shot from the spaceship. So I am scrolling down below my background image. I need a bunch of variables, so I'm actually going to copy the code for the enemy image position. Just because the background image, I deleted the positioning variables below. So I'm going to paste that below the background image. I will change my comments. So this says bullet image and position. So if I go over to my document, which hopefully you have open, that has my links, this came from Schoology, remember, I'm going to copy the link to the image for the bullet and go back to my window and paste it in this location. So there we go. I'm going to change the names of the variables. So this one's going to be bullet image, bullet X, bullet Y, and then bullet Y change, or bullet X change, bullet Y change. And then we're also going to have one more variable, and we'll set these variables in just a second. So down here, we're going to name that variable bullet state equals ready. Okay, so basically the bullet's going to have two states. It's going to be ready or it's going to be firing. So waiting to fire or firing, and that's where we're going to start out. So going back to some of my variables, the bullet is basically going to want to be wherever the spaceship is, but we're going to handle that in a different way. So we're just going to set bullet X right now to 0. Bullet Y, the bullet is always going to start from basically the position of the player. So the player Y is 275, so we're going to have the bullet Y also start at 275. The bullet X change, basically once the bullet's fired, it's not going to go left and right, so we want that to be 0, and once we fire the bullet, we're going to give it a speed of 2 in the Y direction. Okay, we're going to have to think about whether this needs to be positive or negative later, but that's starting everything out. So because the bullet right now is not really doing anything, we're going to add some more functionality before we check it and test it out. So below my enemy function, I'm going to do a function fires the bullet, and I'm going to define this as define fire bullet. It's going to have the same parameters we've been using of X and Y. And basically, because I defined bullet state outside of the function, but when I fire the bullet, I want to change its state, I'm going to have to declare the bullet state as a global variable. Otherwise, I can see it and use it within my function, but I can't change its value. So when I fire the bullet, and we'll see, we're going to use a key to fire the bullet in a second, the bullet state is going to equal fire. Okay. At this point, I am going to show the bullet using this screen blip function of bullet image. And my coordinates are X plus 16, and we'll talk about this in a second too, Y plus 10. So basically, when I brought in this bullet image, my other images for the enemy and for the spaceship are 64-bit. This one I just downloaded as 32-bit. So I kind of want to make it look like it's coming from the middle of the spaceship. So if the middle of my spaceship, and I'll type this down here just so we can see it while we talk about it, is 64, but my bullet is 32, okay? The middle is going to be 16 over in the X direction. So from the center, I'm going 16 kind of in each direction to center my bullet in the middle of the spaceship. This Y plus 10 is also just going to kind of set it in a nice position in accordance to where the spaceship is. So that's my function. So now I'm going to head down into my game loop and start to work on that. In my game loop, the first thing I need to do is set up a key so that when this key is pressed, the bullet will fire. So the key we're going to use, and we're going to come down here and put this just under the if event key pygame.k left, is the space bar. So I'm going to copy this line because that will be easier so that I just have to change one thing. So if I have an event key equals pygame.k space, and then also, because you could press the space bar while the bullet is kind of in the middle of firing, and we're not going to kind of let that do it. So we also want to check underneath this if the bullet state equals ready. So what this is doing, just want to make sure I type this in right. What this is doing is it making sure that the bullet is not currently in the middle of firing a different time. So we're doing that. Then we are actually going to set the bullet's position equal to player X's position. So what this does is it brings our bullet to show up. And remember, our bullet is not visible yet because we haven't called our function, the define fire bullet function. We haven't called that anywhere yet. So it's bringing the bullet in line with player X, once again moving it over 16 like from the center. So that's all being taken care of, and we'll take care of that when we call the function. So then after that happens, we're going to fire the bullet. Okay, and we're going to use for the X coordinate bullet X. And for the Y coordinate, we're going to use bullet Y, which if we look back up here, remember bullet X, even though we typed in bullet X, it's really over 16 to center it from there. And then if we look up here, bullet Y, we set it 275, so it should look like it's coming right from the spaceship because it has the same Y coordinate as that. So down here, once again, so fire bullet is going to set the bullet state to fire, okay, and then it's going to bring in this information. Pause the video just to kind of check the code I already had. The only thing I noticed was I was missing this parentheses up here. So if you missed that, or if you were just completely copying from what I was doing, you did need another parentheses here to close the parentheses in the front. Everything else looked good, noting that I did fire the bullet, but I haven't really given the bullet any motion yet. So I ran the fire bullet, but that just kind of got it ready to go, turned on the firing, and showed the initial position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down below my enemy change or enemy hit the side boundaries section of the code, and I'm going to start to make the bullet move. So this is bullet movement. So we're going to say if the bullet state is equal to fire, and remember we need double equal signs to test if things are equal versus assignment, then we're going to run that fire bullet function again. So the top fire bullet is just kind of getting that turned on. So that's getting it ready to go. Down here, we're running it again, and that can work together with, and we kind of need to run this condition because we're going to change it back to ready at some point. So then what we're going to do is we need to make the bullet go up. So we're going to set a new bullet Y position, and we're going to set that equal to the old bullet Y position plus, and actually minus, the bullet Y change. So the reason I need to do minus is because I set my bullet Y change to +2. I want the bullet to move up, which means the Y value is actually decreasing. Remember, it works a little different than math class. So down here, this should start to make the bullet move up. Okay, so why don't we try running that now? So I'm pressing run code over here, and should see my spaceship. I see my alien. Make sure I click on the screen. I can move this back and forth. So when I'm ready, I can press the space bar and send out the bullet. Okay, so basically I sent out my bullet, but for some reason, you know, nothing happened to the alien, right? Because we haven't set that up. And then also I'm trying to press my space bar again and no more bullets. So we have to kind of think about why this is. Why can't we press the space bar again? So basically the problem is once we send the bullet out, it's kind of going up to infinity and increasing. At some point, we kind of want to bring it back down to the spaceship, and that point where we want to bring it back down is going to be when it kind of gets to that top of the screen. So thinking about what conditions happen when it gets to the top of the screen, that would be when the bullet y equals 0, and when we're at the top of the screen. So right above this condition, we're actually going to put in another if statement. So if the bullet y is less than 0, so when it kind of just goes off the screen, we could use an equal to here, that would be fine as well. We're going to set the bullet y back to 275, right? That was our initial starting value of the bullet y. And then we're also going to set the bullet state back to ready, which means that it's now ready to be fired again. Okay, so we haven't really solved anything with the enemy or seeing if it hits the enemy, but now we should at least be able to fire multiple bullets. So we'll try that again. The long wait. So I paused and reloaded, but we should be good now. So I'm just going to click on here. Oh, lovely. Frozen again. Okay, I'm just going to test the bullet even though my spaceship is not really great. So it goes off. I push it again, right? I can move over some. I can fire it again. So basically, I know it's not working great with whatever's going on with my internet, but I'm able to fire the bullet more than once.